This episode is made possible by NetSuite by Oracle and Brex, the AI-powered spend platform.
Hi, it's Craig Wirt, the CFO of Jobber, and you are listening to the CFO Thought Leader podcast.
This is episode 979.
Coming back to why I really don't like the CFO title, because I think it's misunderstood. I think what I do, what the finance team, a lot of my team members do, we really sit in the middle, and it's lucky. Like oftentimes you get a job, you're just like, you're in your box, right? Whereas what we do, we get to see everything, almost everything. And so we are in a unique position to be able to influence and help improve all these processes, whatever it is. If we see an opportunity, we should take it.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's episode, we speak with Chermaine Hu, CFO of Episode 6. Near the start of our talk with CFO Chermaine Hu, she reveals an irony about the CFO title that we rarely talk about. That irony being that the very title finance executives invest so many illustrious career years to earn conveys what might seem to be a less than illustrious position. Hu's unexpected opening comments seem to be the appropriate preface for an executive that doesn't mind, or in fact prefers being different from the rest. Our talk with CFO Chermaine Hu begins after this. CFOs and controllers, does expense management feel like a necessary evil? It's time to switch to Brex. Brex automates and accelerates spend management with easy-to-use corporate cards, travel, expense management, and bill pay, all on one AI-powered platform. Brex makes it easy to boost efficiency and compliance enterprise-wide and free up your managers, employees, and accounting team for higher impact work. Top companies from startups to enterprises are using Brex to automate manual work and transform their finance operations. We're talking DoorDash, Robinhood, Airtable, and countless other industry leaders. Ready to join them? Switch to AI-powered spend management at Brex.com. Chermaine Hu, CFO of Episode 6. Chermaine, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jack. Nice to
good
meet
catch
you.
up with you. As always, Chermaine, we're going to ask you to look back for us. And we'd like to know some of those experiences you feel that prepared you for this role, the CFO role. What would come to mind for you?
Yeah. So hopefully you won't throw me off this podcast by saying what I'm about to say. But I have always struggled with the CFO title. I honestly really don't like it. I've been a CFO for quite a while. But the reason I don't like it is that I think that's this general perception of what a CFO does. And it's really a fraction. And I think that general perception is a fraction of what I actually do. And so by having a limiting title, I feel like, I should be able to do so much more so readily if my title explains myself better. And so that's my little struggle with the title. But I think I can speak to some earlier experiences in my life that may explain this little struggle
Excellent.
a bit better.
Please do, yeah.
And this goes back a very, very long time. I'm not going to date myself, so I'm not going to say when it was. But it was the Easter break before I started my real permanent job, and I went into banking. But I can share more about that. And it goes even further back in that I had always loved math and sciences as a kid. And so when it came to picking what degree to study at university, and I went to a university in the UK, I picked engineering because it was just so obvious. It's a good combo of math and sciences, things that I loved and still love. So about 2 years into my degree, I went for a summer job at an engineering firm. And again, absolute no disrespect to engineering degrees, engineers, and engineering jobs, but I really didn't get the right experience out of that internship. It was a firm where it seemed like there is zero career progression unless and until the next person retires. And I'm like, I can't wait that long. And so I decided to switch gear. To what though? And at the time, all my friends, like literally all my friends, whether they were studying engineering, something else, everyone was applying to those management consulting jobs and investment banking jobs. So I'd be like, okay, well, I don't know what else to apply to, so I'll do those. And I got an offer to go and join Morgan Stanley's investment banking division in London. So I was over the moon. I was like, sounds like a great job, sounds like a great firm, sounds like a great opportunity. So I was excited. And they were going to send us to New York for training. And I was like, oh, this is very exciting. And I think I got that job offered early in January, and it wasn't going to start until July when I graduated. So throughout those few months, I kept hearing this voice kind of in my head. I couldn't quite figure out what was going on, but it seemed to be saying to me that, hey, I think you need to get some real work experience before you go and start your fancy investment banking job. I was like, huh? But anyway, so I acted on it by walking into my local McDonald's during that Easter break before I started my real job and asked for a job. I was like, I think this is a real work job, right? And I got a job. And so I was like, this is great. The manager was slightly confused when I applied for that job, but he, offered the job to me anyway. And he handed me down to, I guess, the line manager who actually assigned roles and responsibilities to people. And she took one look at me and rightly decided that I probably don't know how to flip burgers. She was correct. I had no idea. And I probably was not very safe around the French fry station, a lot of hot oil. And she was also correct because I was slightly afraid of that. And so she's like, why don't you go and just, hang out at the cashier, take orders, get the, money and whatever. So I was like, okay. And just as I was feeling slightly disappointed of like, how do I end up with a desk job, even at McDonald's? She came back and she said, oh, actually, I forgot. You do get to handle one food item, and that is that ice cream. The soft serve cone thing. So she showed me, like, get the cone and do 3 turns. No more, no less. No less because that's what the picture looks like. You need to sell to the customers what they thought they were buying. But no more because if you go more than 3, it's going to topple over. And so I was like, ooh. First thought, going through my mind was, yay, finally, I have some real work experience serving ice cream. And the second thought that went through my mind was, I'm so going to do more than 3 turns. And so for the next 4 weeks when I was, at McDonald's, I was encouraging all customers to buy ice cream because then I get to practice my little 3+ turns. And I got really good at it by the end of it. I think I can do 4, but that was my limit. I felt like it would be slightly wrong if I go beyond that. But why is all this relevant for my career? So I'm going to get to the point now. Sorry for the long story. But looking back now and looking back, a little bit after then, I realized what that voice was actually saying to me. It was really the uncertainty that I felt about going into an investment banking career that I had absolutely no idea what it was about. It sounded good. Everyone was doing it, so maybe I should do it. But I really came from, my family. No one knew what an investment bank does at my family. I didn't either. But, it was okay. It sounded like a good job. And, I had always just loved math and sciences, never interested in finance, business, economics, or anything that seems to be more tailored for that type of career. So why was I going down that path? And I think, not being too old school here, back in the days, people want jobs for life and not I'm going to do this for 2 years and then switch over and do something else for another year. I was really looking to be at the firm for life. So is this the right thing for me to do for life? And I think that McDonald's moment was telling me what I was really looking for in my career. it's not necessarily I want to learn Excel, or I want to learn how to value companies, or I want to learn or be doing M&A for the rest of my life. I was really looking for a job, a work environment, a career where I'm allowed to learn like new things all the time. I'm challenged all the time, and I have the opportunity to really better myself all the time. And my little ice cream experience was like nothing that I ever thought I would care to learn, but it was a challenge, and it was something that I could practice, do better and better. And so that gave me that clarity as to what I was really looking for in a career. And luckily, it turns out that an M&A department in an investment bank is actually a great place to like have all those things, a lot of challenges, a lot of learning, and really a lot of opportunities to continue to do things better. And so since that little McDonald's career that I had for 4 weeks, I then subsequently spent 14 years doing M&A at Morgan Stanley.
Well, wait, I have to ask though, did you have greater clarity as years went by as to what that chapter represented for you? Because again, you already, had a path into investment banking. For whatever reason, you stepped into this role. And are you testing yourself in some way? It's almost like a dare? Why?
I don't think I'm a daredevil, but I also have a very strong desire to try new things and to find challenges in life, but the more civilized like type challenges like career. And I think that's just it. I wanted to experience different things. And I'll tell you the next story, which may echo the same theme here, which was I felt that was another moment in my career that was very meaningful to me. And it was 8 years into my job at Morgan Stanley. I was in London that whole time doing M&A, and I thought I was doing great. Right? I was doing big deals. Everyone liked me. Everyone respected me, and always offered me good projects. But then that voice came back. I'm like, God damn it, stop talking to me. But it came back, and it kind of said, I don't think this is enough. I'm like, my God, what do you mean? But having known that voice for quite some time, I knew what that meant. It was just having been doing the same thing, not necessarily the same thing. I think that's a very steep career progression at an investment bank, but being at the same firm, working with the same group of people, and being quite successful, I think, in what I was doing. So I was doing well. That made everything a bit too easy. And I think I was still at a place in my career where I wanted more challenges. And, maybe it's crazy.
I'll point out 8 years would have been a little more than half. You had 14 years at Morgan Stanley. So this is about your halfway point there that you begin to have these thoughts of or the voice returns, I guess.
Voice returned, yeah. And so I was like, okay, now shut up. I'm going to address this. And I still looked at what was going on, and I loved what I was doing still. Like, I enjoy M&A very much. I loved Morgan Stanley. I think it was and it is still a great firm, a lot of really great people. But what was too easy for me, I think, was just the environment under which I was doing all of those things. So my brilliant idea was I should go and talk to the head of M&A in London and say, I want to transfer to New York. And like that would make it interesting, wouldn't it? And I thought it was also a great career move because it's a US investment bank. If I'm going to progress the rest of my life in this career, I should move to the headquarters. And so I moved. And so I knew nobody in the US. I knew absolutely no one in New York. But this sounds like a great thing to do. Really challenging. I'm going to be learning a lot of new things. And so that was awesome. But the one thing that I didn't take into account was it was a promotion year for me. You know how in the bank, you have up for promotion after doing this for X year and having this title for that year. I was a vice president then, and I was up for early promotion to be an executive director. And I think I did not forget it, but in the back of my mind, I thought, come on, it's the same firm where everyone loved me, thought highly of me. I can be in New York, but I still get this promotion. No biggie. But I didn't get the promotion because so this is the two things that I learned really from this experience of not getting the promotion was number one, that's no the firm. The firm is not a thing. The firm are the people within the firm. And so by moving to New York during a promotion year and being evaluated by a brand new group of people in New York who don't know me at all, zero chance of me getting that early promotion. But fine. But I think what that really spoke to me about is that how important relationships really are. Right. Again, it's not about you're at this company, so you must be awesome. It's about the relationship that you have built around you within that organization. People are the ones who can make you and break you, but also really important to have that relationship, that sponsorship. You want people to want to help you. And again, in firms like those, and probably in most workplaces, you need people to help you, guide you through your career growth, but also organization. There's always politics. There's always things that if people don't tell you, you won't figure out. So the people aspect is so important in any career, no matter what you do and where you are. So that was the thing number one that I learned from this little experience. Thing number two was that was a major setback for me in my career. It's like I've never had like any setback. And I think what I learned from that is I have been so lucky in life. Like that is a setback, not getting a promotion. I did eventually get it just a year later, but it's like, it's not that big a deal. But to me, it was devastating. And having that devastation really taught me to reflect, like, what did I do wrong? Like, should I not move? But I think what that taught me is the importance of the relationship. And so that also made me realize that you need to have setback in lives so that when the next one comes, you're stronger. You can just stand up faster. You can fight back faster. And so that prepared me for future setbacks. I hopefully didn't had too many more, but I think that was good.
Looking back at the your early years in your career, you were highly social, it seems, too, and I think that's part of your success. Your ability to reach out to others and collaborate with others, where not all math nerds are, and we interview a lot of accountants who struggle sometimes breaking out of the numbers. Yeah. How would you describe yourself?
I have to say, I don't think I am an introvert, like not the extreme, but I'm definitely not an extrovert. I'm not a big people person. I like to talk to like one-on-one with people, and I'm not also like that good with the chit chat. And I remember like when I first moved to the US as someone from Hong Kong who studied in the UK, have never lived or experienced the US other than watching Friends on TV. I had no idea what the US culture actually meant. And also working in a workplace where largely men versus women, that's just all these conversations about sports, about things that I just absolutely had no idea what was going on. And I couldn't participate in those conversations. But what I realized was that, when you're in a big group, a bunch of guys chatting, then those are the typical topics. But when I go out one-on-one, grab lunch with a colleague, talk about normal stuff that I actually know something about. So I mean, I don't think I'm good at like I'm such a people person. I'm going to walk in a room and own it. I'm not that. But at the same time, I do think, kind of back to my point about, people are the ones who can help you, and I also think that you don't need to, and you shouldn't just go, oh, because I'm going to need this person to help me at some point, so I'm going to be friends with them. I think just building relationship is a daily thing that you need to enjoy, and I like to have friends, like not a lot but some. so having some of those easier conversations for me is straightforward, and I don't think you need to be that person who needs to own the room all the time to be successful in building relationship, because I think it's actually pretty hard for a lot of people to do that, including myself.
I want to ask a question here, and again, we speak to a lot of finance leaders with investment banking backgrounds, and trying to distinguish what sets them apart. And when I think about your success, your career success at Morgan Stanley, I'm like, there must have been a time where there was a CEO, CFO management team coming in, expecting to do business, but not necessarily with Morgan Stanley. And there was a more senior person, a partner who was going to sit in on the conference and turned and said, let's make sure Chermaine is sitting in as well. And maybe that was, the first time that happened where they, definitely wanted you there as the C-suite entered. Maybe it was from your very earliest days. I don't know exactly, but it seems to me, you're succeeding when the bank is sitting you down across from the C-suite. Is there anything you can share in what I just shared, if it's not accurate or you think it's naive in some way? But I have a sense that's was a turning point for you. Someone was like, yes, make sure she's there.
Yeah, and honestly, that's absolutely the case. And there have been so many different situations and opportunities. I remember when I was like really a baby banker, like possibly 2 years into my job as a junior analyst. And I was the person carrying the books and whatever to go to the meeting. I would sit way back, and then there would be the senior guys like doing their thing. And I would just be so happy to get to go to the meeting, even though I was just carrying the bag. Nothing to say, but just listen and learn. And I remember there was this CFO of this particular company, and I think he knows that I do really a lot of the work, and it's like, the sort of investment banking world, and back in the days anyway, probably still true in some situations now, you work around the clock, and there's this urgency over and over and over again. And so I would be working like over the weekend, all night and day, like God knows how many hours, 20 hours a day. And he knows that I was the one who pulled all those all-nighters and whatever to get the work done. And the work is well done. And it's not just me, right? It's total teamwork, which is also one thing that I love about being in a bank like that. But he would always, when we wrap up the meeting and we finish the analysis, all the big guys share their thoughts and whatever, he would always thank me, like in particular. And I think so. My boss's boss, my boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss is like, who is this person that the CFO, the client, is pointing out? And so I've had quite a few of those experiences where, like, they didn't have to, but I appreciated it because I think they also appreciate what I did and the value I bring to the table. And obviously, as you get more senior, like working around the clock is not the only value add that you need to provide. But I've had a lot of people, within Morgan Stanley, within clients that I worked with, who had always like called me out and did things that they didn't have to do, that I realized they didn't have to do, because I think they know that it would help me. And they didn't have to do that for any reason other than wanting to be helpful. And so I do that a lot now, because I think, why not? Cost me nothing, right, to help people succeed. But it's also very necessary for a lot of folks to get that little lift, a little pull and push sometimes, to figure out how to steer in their career, because it's not a straight line. It's hard sometimes. A lot of times.
Now,
right?
As part of the C-suite today, I think it's always interesting, too, to go back to those early instances where you're sitting at the table or in the room observing C-suite executives for the first time, how they behave, the questions they ask. Was there ever a time that you were a little shocked or surprised by a management team? And, maybe it was, you realized that there was an argument between the two members of the C-suite. I don't know, but just in general terms, perhaps.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, like my 14 years, I felt I learned so much from just listening and observing, particularly when I was more junior in my career. Because I think after a while, like when you're there for the first time or you don't go to many meetings, you don't know what like the standard, where the line is. And then, but once you've seen so many people in those situations, oftentimes when you're negotiating a deal, the people's true selves come out, right? Late at night, been at the table for the whole day and still not wrapping up. But for me, it was really beneficial to see the different styles, in terms of interaction, in terms of negotiation, because not everyone's style can apply to you. If you don't have that personality, sometimes you can't do certain things a certain way. But yeah, again, kind of back to what you were saying earlier, about conversation about, being introverted, extroverted. I'm not like that loud person, but I've found my voice, like I found my style through learning from observing so many people doing things different ways. And I would say, and I was actually in the oil and gas business. So I work for a lot of really the big major firms, and they have very solid people. And we were negotiating a multi-billion dollar deals, and the chief negotiator is the nicest guy like you will ever meet. Like just super nice, real gentleman, never raise his voice. And the way that he gets people to come to his side, his position, is like very civilized, very reasonable. And then but there's also the opposite guy. It's just loud, it's shouting, it's like, I'm gonna walk away and you have to fold. And so I'm like, I know I'm not that loud guy. And I really want to be like this guy because I think that's just such a great, respectful way to get things done. And so yeah, that's just so much learning. And not to digress, I kind of feel like in today's world, where there's so much work from home situation, where, in particular, people younger in their careers, they don't get that opportunity as much to sit in the room. Like no one's carrying the bag and sitting at the back of the table to listen and learn. They're really missing some really important things in life that, I mean, they may still get to learn, but maybe it will take much longer because they have, much less exposure to that today. But I felt I really benefited from a lot of just having that opportunity to listen.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Just curious, and I don't know if there's something else you want to share, just jump in, but as you that second half of your career at Morgan Stanley, as you advance and again, you're getting a better sense of the C-suite. I mean, is there something that begins to bloom where you're thinking about your next chapter and becoming an operator, or did it happen differently?
Yeah, I think what was kind of that voice came back again as I close to the end of my career at Morgan Stanley was, and I think the industry has also evolved in terms of, the value of bringing a bank in to do M&A. And I knew, and as I was progressing, through the ranks at doing M&A at Morgan Stanley, I loved the getting things done aspect, like getting a deal done, bring the right people to the table, buy and sell assets, and so on and so forth. I love doing that. But I don't love doing the whining and dining when like go and find clients type exercise. And when you get to a certain level, in any organization, in banking anyway, that becomes part of what you have to do. And I really don't like doing that. I'm possibly also very not good at it. And so I'm like, I need to find something where I can continue to really bring value for the position I'm at. But at the same time, I also need to find something that continues to satisfy that crazy, I need challenge, I need new things, I need to learn aspect. And I think also having worked at, by then, 14 years in a big firm is a long time. I do know a lot of people have spent 30 years at these banks, which is great for them. But I think for me, I really felt that need to do something more, and that something more, probably more in the direction of having more direct impact to the end outcome. Because oftentimes, like when we do a deal, like we get a deal done, we bought some asset or we sold a division for a big company, we don't know what happened to those guys. I mean, I work with all those folks like for 6 months to get an asset sold, then they're gone. Like they may lose their jobs, and so for me, that's just something not dissatisfying, but it feels like there's something more I can do that actually brings more impactful results. And that didn't lead me directly to starting a company with my two partners like 9 years ago. But I think that was where I was headed from a sort of thinking where my career should be going perspective at that point.
Just before we leave Morgan Stanley, is there anything? All these investment banks, we are led to believe they're all identical in culturally. It's just a brutal culture where you work all these hours. Is there anything, as you compare notes with peers and other firms, that sets Morgan Stanley apart, or maybe a little differently? And I'd be surprised, but because it's such a hard, it can be long days, and it's just the nature of what investment banking is. Yeah.
I've never worked at
No,
another
you
bank,
can't.
so I can't really provide that comparison. But I do have a lot of friends who were in the business or in different firms, and a bank like an investment bank like Morgan Stanley is huge. Like working in investment banking is one thing. Working in M&A and investment banking is a different thing. Like working in fixed income is something else. So I don't know if, and I'm not going to sell the TV show, but that's a TV show, I think on HBO, that's about investment bankers. And I was watching that show and was like touching base with some of my ex-colleagues. I'm like, I've never experienced that ever. Like, is this real? Like, where, like I haven't missed out because they seem to be having so much fun in so many ways. So I don't know, but what I would say is that the folks that I had worked with at Morgan Stanley, I have such respect for them. That there are, there are some bad apples always in any large organization, but for the majority of the folks that I had gotten to work with, they are very good at what they do, and they are very solid people, very ethical, and so I'm sure there are movies and shows that kind of suggest otherwise. But Morgan Stanley is a great firm with really a lot of great.
So when
people.
it comes time to move to an opportunity, I think you business development is your door of entry. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of corporate development. Again, I just don't like labels because it just really like limits what you're supposed to do. So I was hired into not my current company, but a previous company to do corporate development, whatever that actually meant. But obviously, with my skill set, there was the expectation that I can talk to investors, I can help raise money. But I think the one thing that when I joined that company was I look at the books and I'm like, okay, I think there are a few things that we need to address here. And that was kind of how I eventually, pretty quickly, became the CFO of that company. And with zero accounting background, zero like real finance background. Like being an investment banker doesn't set you up to run finance, I don't think. But at the same time, kind of back to what I was saying, being a CFO can mean a lot of things. And I think based on my, for example, lack of accounting experience, I had a strong controller. And like at my current company, I have the same thing, which is I know I don't do the accounting stuff that well. But at the same time, I have people who have the skill set to essentially make sure that those functions are properly run. And then I can do my thing, which mostly is about problem solving.
Did you have any criteria? And again, I think, these things happen. Sometimes it's the relationship or the opportunity. You're not choosing an industry, but you chose tech, I think. And was that always in the back of your mind or not really? What would you tell us?
No, complete accident through my relationship with someone that I worked with, still very good friends with at Morgan Stanley, who knew someone who knew that there was this opening. And I was like, oh, okay, sounds right. And at the time I was living in New York and this position is in Austin. I'm like, sure, I've never been to Austin, but fine, whatever.
So did you relocate then or, you did?
I eventually did. Initially, I was going to do like half and half, but if you are in something, you need to be in it. And so I moved.
All right. Well, we know that you've opened yet another CFO chapter since then at episode 6. We might have a few more career-related questions for you a little later during the mentoring round. But right now, let's find out about episode 6. What is this company about? What are its offerings today?
Yeah. So the headline is we are a payments technology company and we provide infrastructure technology to banks. But generally, no one understands what that means. So I'm going to explain it in a way that makes sense. So I think of what our company does very similar to what I'm very focused on, which is solving problems. And what we are doing for our customers are solving problems for them. And most of our customers are banks and financial institutions that offer financial products to consumers and corporates in general. But the biggest problem that they're facing today is the lack of tools that they can use to actually do what they want to do, which is to provide great, innovative products that their customers actually want and need and love. And the reason for the lack of good tools is a function of how the financial technology industry had evolved over time. And there are a lot of big guys out there, really solid companies, but all their platforms were built, back in the 80s, 90s on mainframe. So very legacy technology heavy industry. And you can also understand why, right? Once you have millions of customers, billions of dollars running on your platform, are you really going to change it? No, because the risk is very, very, very high. And in particular, if your platform was built in the old ways, and obviously technology has evolved so much even within the last 10 years, but the older technology is also really hard to change. And so by not changing, you're being, risk averse, right? Or the companies that are offering those technology, but also the banks and the clients that are using it, because you just don't want to take the chance that something goes wrong. Your customers' transactions, money are lost. The regulators are on your back. Just no good, right? But at the same time, you can only stuck in that mindset for so long, because the offset is by not changing, you are not innovating. You're not, keeping up with what people actually want now, right? Imagine Gen Z. No one's been to a bank like ever. Everything is on their phone. Everything has an app. Everything happens instantly. Imagine you're doing that on an old mainframe legacy platform. Most of the things happen kind of like that's a batch overnight that will run, and 2 days later, your transaction will show up. That's not acceptable these days. And so how do you go from being in this risky, but risk averse, but also not innovative situation to where you can slowly or maybe quickly get on with the rest of the world and offer technology and offer products that your customers actually want? And so what we have built is essentially something that our clients can do that exact thing with, which is, if you want a brand new product out of the gate and you're okay to work with us, we're young, right? Smaller companies. Oftentimes banks want to work with companies that they've worked with for the last decades. But by being able to provide that level of comfort, our team are, we're not the youngest startup people. And so we have team members who have had a lot of experience in the industry. And we can demonstrate the value that our platform brings to the table and how quickly they can deploy new products, innovative products to the exact spec that they want on our platform. Once they've had that experience, then they feel more confident that they can bring the rest of their portfolio, their business over onto our platform. So that creates that solution for them, which is you don't have to do a very risky thing by just unplugging from your existing provider and plugging into us. You can slowly migrate over. But at the same time, you can launch new products very quickly. And I think that that's also another really important aspect of our platform that people really like, which is, sure, you can launch a product in 2024, 2025. People want different things. People want changes. Right? Changing products, features on our platform is very easy, very straightforward to do. Unlike, again, with a legacy platform, you probably need to get into their queue, for 6 months, figure out whether they can even do what you want them to do for another 6 months, and then make the changes for another 6 months before any change would actually happen. Well, for us, most of the changes for our clients' products are either something that they can pretty much do real time themselves, or we can get those, a new API created, or whatever that the requirement is, pretty much implemented very quickly. And so we're essentially offering a new way of doing something that's not like all that new. Providing financial payment products is, everyone has a credit card, right? Nothing that new about it. But better technology means better experiences for both our clients as well as their customers. So that is a slightly longer, but hopefully easier to understand version of what
Thank
we
you
do.
for that. I should have mentioned up front, too. This chapter is an interesting one for you as well, because you are a co-founder of the company, along with the CEO and the CTO. And we'd like to ask you, you were there from the start, clearly, and when you said we built this company, you actually did. You were there at the very beginning. Can you share with us a little bit about the capital structure then, and where you are today on the abbreviated history of the capital structure this way?
Oh, sure. So when the three of us decided to set up this company, we left our job with no backers, no nothing other than this brilliant idea and the belief that we can do it. So we self-funded the company for a little while, but it's really largely the three of us with one or two guys who believed in us. And then so we founded a company in 2015. So we turned 9 this year. By 2-3 years into our journey, we were getting some early success. We had by then built the platform. So we raised seed money from an investor in Japan who helped us continue to carry the company forward. And then we started the alphabet of raising money. So we did our A round, and then we did our B round, and then we did our C round. So we have some really great investors such as HSBC and MasterCard on our cap table. We also have some really solid, great financial investors who bring a different perspective to how to, think about running the company and, financing and expertise in different areas versus what our strategic investors brought to the table. So as of last year, literally this time last year, we closed our C round. So we're in that alphabet journey.
Now we're curious what numbers or metrics you're looking at day to day.
It's cash, clearly. You're watching how the company's growing, where it needs to pick up growth more. What would you share with us?
Yeah.
What are you looking at in terms of metrics?
Yeah, honestly, it's all of the above. I think particularly in today's environment where we've gone through the heydays of raising money very easily in 2020 and 2021 to a more sober but I think realistic environment now. We're very focused on managing cost because that's one thing you can absolutely control, and we have to be able to control that. But also accelerated growth from a revenue and client perspective. And having raised the round last year, which, again, we were fortunate to be able to close the round in such tough, financing environment with some very solid and good investors who was very supportive of us, we were able to expand our go-to-market effort. So through that, we have done a lot more work, and we are seeing successes in terms of driving that revenue growth, that client addition that we're looking for. And so by doing both together, we can absolutely manage our cash position. And hopefully, I'm hoping we would never have to raise another round, but obviously there are different reasons for needing additional cash. But I think we feel very good about the trajectory that we're headed. And so my day job, my CFO job does include, very much focusing on all aspects of revenue growth, the quality of the revenue that we're generating, as well as managing our cost. And we have a global team for a relatively small company. We, currently have about 180 people, but we are across all the key regions. We have offices in Singapore, Tokyo, India, Australia, I'm going to miss some of them, London, and obviously, in the US. And so there are a lot of things that we are watching very carefully and managing very carefully.
Along the way, did the target customer change, or has it remained pretty much the same as to who you thought you'd be selling to?
Yeah, it has been an interesting journey because the outset for us was we knew we can build the platform that we have built and provide that type of technology better than everybody else in the market. And I'm not a salesperson, but that is 100% true. Every time we go into a competitive situation, our technology is always ranked top. So I think that was kind of the out of the gate, we can do this mindset. But exactly who we sell this to was a bit of an evolution, because what we also came to realize is that there are just so many product use cases that our platform can support, which kind of means that we can sell to anybody for anything. But that's not a great sales strategy, right? You need to have focus. You need to know who to go after and how to do it the best way you can, because time is of the essence. And so I think over time, I think we realize really the most valuable vertical for us, and for many reasons, are the financial institutions, so the banks. And the good news for us as well is that we had designed the platform to be global, to be location agnostic, to be cloud agnostic, so we can literally sell to any banks in the world. And that's a big market. And so I think for us, it's still an evolving thing, because there are so many banks and there's so many use cases. And kind of back to what I was saying earlier, an investment bank has all these different functions. So do commercial banks, right? The commercial banks versus the consumer banks, their needs are different. But ultimately, the product that they end up needing to offer are quite similar from a fundamental perspective, which is what our platform can support. And importantly, our platform is so configurable that, yes, the fundamentals are exactly the same, but you can configure it to do exactly what you want to do. The look and feel, the transaction flow, the experience, the UI UX experience. So I think we have more work to do, but right now our focus is absolutely on the FI segment globally.
I want to touch on AI with you quickly, and I'm wondering if you can provide any insight into the company's strategy for adopting and integrating AI into your operations. Does AI play a role there yet? Is it going to be more ambitious in years to come, months to come?
I think we are watching it very closely, because obviously we are not, that's not our core business. So we're not going to be the leader. We're not going to be investing a lot of time and resources, which I think you need to figure out the right AI strategy. But I think we will be able to benefit from it when there are more commercial models that can be leveraged across, I think, the operations that we have in the company. Not to say that we'll replace a lot of humans, but there are things that probably can be done much more efficiently with AI-backed solutions, and then our human can be deployed to do the higher value adding, maybe other aspect of the work that a machine probably can't do. And so I would say, it's something that is, on our mind. But right now we're watching carefully to see how other people are, leading the effort in terms of making it more usable from a sort of corporation perspective.
Chermaine, we always like to ask for what we refer to as a finance strategic moment. And this is just one moment in your long career where you had a moment of strategy insight that allowed you to pursue an opportunity, avoid a risk, doesn't matter what it is. What comes to mind when we ask for a finance strategic moment?
I don't want to offer answers that get me thrown off the podcast, but I feel like I have those moments every day, like literally every day. I would be looking at something and thinking, and it may or may not be a straightforward, this is a finance thing. But also because of my role, a lot of things that are not straightly finance cross my plate, because I'm one of the key people running the organization. And I would be looking at it thinking, it touches finance, but there are just so many angles involved in this problem. And finance is the glue oftentimes for most things, right? Because you have to pay for something, or you need to get paid for something. There's always money involved, almost all the time. And so I think of ourselves, and I joke to my finance team, it's like, we are the center of the universe in our organization. We obviously need everyone around us, but we also need to provide that support across the board. But I also run our people and HR function, and I say to them too, we are also the center of the universe, because without people, we can't do anything. So I would say I coming back to why I really don't like the CFO title, because I think it's misunderstood. I think like what I do, what the finance team, a lot of my team members do, we really sit in the middle. And it's lucky. Like so oftentimes you get a job, you're just like, you're in your box, right? Whereas what we do, we get to see everything, almost everything. And so we are in a unique position to be able to influence and help improve all these processes, whatever it is that we are sitting in the middle of. If we see an opportunity, we should take it. And so I like to hire people who don't think that they're just finance professional. I like to hire people who are like, yeah, I'm just interested in a lot of things and problem solving. So hopefully that's not a bad answer.
$37,000, 25, 1. These are the three numbers to remember to get the visibility and control you need to make the right business decisions instantly. 37,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down expenses. 1. Because your business is one of a kind, you should get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system and with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need, all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance, absolutely free, at netsuite.com/KPI. That's netsuite.com/KPI.
No, that's great. Thank you for that. We're going to jump to our mentoring round where I'll ask several quick questions. I want you to think back to the first time you stepped into the CFO role. So this was at your prior company where you were in corporate development and then stepped eventually into that CFO role. For those first time CFOs or for those people who are going to be stepping into CFO roles for the first time, there must have been something when you stepped into that role and you thought, I didn't expect this, or I wish someone had told me this, something that was a little unexpected about the role itself. Anything?
I would say I really didn't know what it meant to be a CFO. So everything was kind of a surprise. Really, this is what I do. But I think joking aside, I learned a lot from just running that function because there are a lot of hidden things that you don't even think is a thing that actually needs to be done. And again, the HR function also reported into me. And oftentimes, I think I find most surprising is like US HR payroll systems. There are a lot of landmines that you don't know about until you do. And so I would say, generally keep an open mind about what may be required. But at the same time, most of these things are just, can be solved with common sense. So it's not like this is the manual for a CFO. Like just when something crosses your table, figure out the solutions. It's not that hard.
We always like to ask our guests to reflect a little on the personal side for us. We're wondering if there's something many of your colleagues might not know about you, something you do in your free time, perhaps don't know. Anything come to mind?
I don't tend to overshare, but I think most people who work with me know me pretty well. I hang out, spend a lot of time with my dog, Bubble. That everyone knows, but otherwise, I don't think so. I mean, I have a lot of hobbies, but I also work a lot, and so that sounds very boring. At the same time, I would say I often tell people that you need to know the why to what you do, and once you know that, it's not a grind, it's not a chore, it's not, oh my god, so many hours like need to be invested into it. It's like you are doing something for this reason, so do it. Yeah.
Well, we are up to our final question, which is when we ask you, Chermaine, to look forward
for us the coming 12 months. We're interested in what your CFO priorities are.
That's hard. And I say this because I think for the last 8.5, almost 9 years, holding the position that I hold, every day is a new day because the company has evolved so much from the 3 people that we had in the US to the 180 people that we have now. I feel that we will continue to be on a crazy, but good crazy trajectory as a company. And so a lot of what I do today is to plan for what, we would be looking at in a year's time, in 2 years' time. So doing that work ahead of the scaling is going to help us with, being efficient, being streamlined and continue to grow successfully as and when we get there. So my guess is this time next year, I would be doing what we need to be doing so that we'll be okay in a year or two.
Chermaine Hugh, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack.
Hello, Thought Leader listeners. We hope 2024 is treating you well. If you haven't already, we hope you'll pay a visit to CFOThoughtLeader.com and go ahead and subscribe to our Mentoring Round newsletter, where we highlight the career lessons and moments of strategic insight shared by our recent CFO guests. Also, LinkedIn users, please go ahead and follow our CFO Thought Leader company page, and you'll be certain not to miss a single Thought Leader video debut. CFO Thought Leader, the #1 thought leadership platform exclusively for and by CFOs. As always, thank you for listening.